guys are playing off chemistry they already had. Now, Ving Rhames had more of a role than he had in 4, obviously, when he just had a cameo at the end. But still, a pretty lesser role, because let's not forget that him and Benji pretty much have the same job. So yeah. So Ving Rhames, I'm glad he still keeps coming back. But probably I would say 3 is probably his best movie, as a character and as an actor, I'd say, because he's just kind of there to be there at this point, it feels like.
Right. Yeah, I think he really did have the peak of his role in 3, but it is nice to see him because it is a group, and I like seeing that loyalty that he has for Ethan. Where when he's talking to that guy Brant, and he's like, "Look, Ethan's my friend, right? And you guys are never going to find him." And he's not quite trusting Brant because he's working for the CIA now as well, right? But then he realizes that they do kind of got to work together, and then he learns that he can trust Brant. But it's great to see that loyalty, and there's a couple things that they did play with your expectations on that I wasn't expecting the first time, like when Benji goes for his polygraph test. Like, I was convinced that he was mad at Ethan the first time I watched it.
Right.
And then until they show you that little blip at the end, which is really great, and it's interesting to see because, yeah, he is out in the field and he's left out in the field and the other people are now stuck inside and the one guy resigned. That's really interesting.
Yeah, with Simon Pegg, I feel like he really had a good gauntlet of emotions to play here.
Yeah.
He is the comic relief, right? As he was in the 3rd. And the 4th, but he has other colors to play, like the whole scene in, like you said, the lie detector. Like, you believe him? Like, I don't owe him anything. He's not my friend,
Right.
But then at the end, he's like, "Look, I'm your friend, and I'm staying, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. And let's keep going." Yeah. And Ethan's like, "Okay." So I like how he had more to do, and he's really like grown into just as integral a part as Ethan. I think is Benji, and having him not get to wear a mask, right? So let's talk about that, right? So do you count the mask from the hypothetical scenario where he gets caught and his mask gets ripped off?
I don't know. Sure, I guess so, because it's on the screen. It's more of a mask than that one in the last film.
Yeah, that's true. If we're going to count that one.
We didn't count that one.
No, we did.
Nope.
Yes, we did. Check the tape. Nope. Check the tape.
I'm the editor. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, it's in there. Yes, I know.
So Benji, right? There was a deleted scene with him where he was going to wear a mask, a Hunley mask, which is Alec Baldwin's character, and he was going to impersonate Hunley and engage the real Hunley in a cat and mouse game. But this scene was cut as it was judged too confusing. I'm not really sure where that would have fit in, but I guess I'm glad they cut it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know where that would have fit. That probably would have been near the end, I would guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So yeah, it's fine. And hey, let's talk about the mask there, right? The mask here also very effective because they had not much like the last couple of films, they hadn't overplayed the mask. Mm-hmm. So when there is one, you're like, oh, I was waiting for someone to show up. I didn't have my finger on it. Like, I wasn't calling it from the start, but I had a feeling it was going to show up, and here it was, right?
Yes, because it was pretty late in the film when we got our first mask, so... But, okay, so I guess the other problem that I had with the film this time is, well, yes, I loved the sequences, I loved the action sequences, and we should probably come back to talk about the underwater sequence. I don't know if we need to add more to it other than it was pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. But
do you ever like when you were watching Star Trek 4 when you were younger, right?
Yes,
that's what made me think of,
definitely
right?
held my breath every time. I knew exactly where you were going.
I did the same thing. I'm like, all right, can I hold my breath as long as Captain Kirk here? I'm glad that we all did that. So anyway, that's what that reminded me of there.
Now that I'm older, I don't do that anymore. But yes, for Star Trek 4, I did every single time. But going into it this time here, like the first half of the movie is really outstanding, but the back half of the film, like after that kind of that motorcycle chase and whatnot, it's a lot of talk and it really slows down for me, and it's really a lot of talk for the remaining back half of the film. Mm-hmm. And that's what brings down the rating for me significantly. I think the second time I watched it, I'm like, this is kind of boring now.
Well, it's not a end of the world nuclear missile going to go off, disease going to be released kind of ending. but it was more espionage, which is what more when Mission
Yeah.
Impossible is supposed to be. So I see your point. It wasn't like you had so many big action scenes leading up to the climax. The climax didn't have a similar one, but I don't think that's a problem because even the final confrontation with the villain, right, in the last one was very underwhelming, I thought. So even though you had crazy stuff like nuclear warheads flying through space, it was kind of a wash in 4.
See, I liked it in 4 because they were doing lots of fun stuff with these cars moving and the bag, the briefcase going underneath the car and they couldn't reach it, and I don't know. So I kind of enjoyed that. I thought it was really interesting and different, but I don't know. I seem to like that ending more than you did.
Yeah, I guess so. I just liked. I think it's probably because the book ends. I appreciate that more this time because I think the first time I'd seen it in the theater, Rogue Nation, I was like, oh, they trapped him in a box, great, But now I appreciate the whole like, oh, I see. He wanted to get the exact revenge on him and feel helpless and gassed in a glass cage, much like he had been at the beginning. So I appreciated that more what they were doing, and the fact they didn't kill the villain. It's refreshing.
Yes. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that they didn't kill him too, because you don't. I mean, it's kind of weird if every single time they go on a mission they kill the bad guy.
Right.
So, anywho, anything else we need to talk about? Is there anything we missed yet, Zach?
Well, what'd you think of Ilsa being like the female Ethan Hunt, right? His female counterpart. Like, did you like that he kind of had somebody on his level for once in one of these films?
Yes, and I thought it was interesting that we didn't quite know where her loyalties were lying because, the way that they had the character is that, upon a second watch, you're like, she's telling the truth the whole time, but as you're watching it, you're like, okay, well, which side is she really playing? Because you think she's bad, and then she lets him go, and then you think she's good, but then she steals the file and, electrocutes Benji, right? And then she's actually not stealing it for Solomon. She's stealing it for the British agency. So it's like, it was really interesting because you're trying to figure out where this character's loyalties lie.
Yeah, I mean,
so I thought it was great.
You genuinely do guess. You're like, oh, well, because through about 70% of the movie, she could go either way. Like, Shirley is playing all the sides. Like, she's some double or triple agent, it seems,
Yeah.
But then when her own government kind of screws her over, like, go get your thing. And, it was sad to see because she really wants to get called back in, and they just send her back out there. And as you find out, her handler, that guy, kind of invented the syndicate, so he's not the best guy in the world either. So the guy reminded me of Roddy McDowall, by the way. Did he remind you of like a
he did,
Roddy McDowall type? Anyway. So, I like that, and she comes back in the next one. Spoilers, which is a first for a female lead in a Mission Impossible movies. So, she was, I think, pretty much based off her, the strength of her performance and her character here, that's why they brought her back, and to play such a large role moving forward. Now, probably another major scene that she plays a prominent role in is the opera scene.
Right.
It reminded me a lot of Quantum of Solace, actually. They're the James Bond film where they're at an opera looking for the bad guy. It's very similar to this, but there's a lot of cool action going on around it. Like, I love how the multiple assassins. You don't know who's there to do what, and then of course the fight with the stage going up and down. And I loved how Tom Cruise. I can assume as a movie star, he's pretty careful about how he presents himself, being shorter than other people. But they really play into that this time. Where I think it's the first time in the franchise they've called attention to the fact that he's not the tallest guy in the world, and the guy he's fighting there is just massive. I love that, right?
Yes. It's an interesting thing because you're like, he comes in all full of confidence, and then this guy's just like towering over top of him.
And then he like hits him over, and he like holds up his finger like 1 second. It's just like I love it. There's so many little Tom Cruise isms that make these films so fun to watch because he's not just generic action guy doing generic action stuff. He injects some personality into it, which makes it all the more enjoyable. And it's such a smart play by Ethan to shoot the guy in the arm, right? Because he's like, these people are going to shoot him in the heart or the head. Let me get him out of that area and then bring his security. I thought that on his feet, brilliant, like figuring out how to use that musical instrument as a weapon, and then of course, Solomon had thought it through though and blows up the guy's car, which is like the ultimate, like, oops, we did all we could, but he still won in the end. So.
Yeah, see, that I didn't see coming. Like, that was an amazing twist in the film.
Yeah, because they saved him. Like, nope, didn't. So.
Yep. No, they didn't. And what's great about it is because he has to shoot him. Like the first time I thought I was watching it, I'm like, okay, well, where's this going to go? Is now he going to get caught up and they're going to suspect him of the assassination attempt? But it didn't really go that way.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it could have easily gone that way. But it didn't, which was just nice. There's plenty of other movies where it kind of does, right? Where he gets blamed for this kind of stuff. So.
But I like the idea of this big action sequence taking place in this opera theater because it's this place of like culture and quiet and, nice clothing and whatnot. And so here he is. They're having these battles with these, really snazzy clothes on. She's got this wonderful, beautiful yellow dress on, and it's really kind of an interesting place to have an action sequence that you haven't really seen before. But speaking of this sequence, I'm a Hitchcock fan, and this is actually kind of reminiscent of a Hitchcock film, which is the Man Who Knew Too Much, because in The Man Who Knew Too Much, the whole plot revolves around they want to kill this guy at a concert. And the thing is that they know where the loud note is in the concert, and that's when they're going to shoot him.
Yeah, that was a great point where she circled where the loudest part was going to be. It's smart.
Yeah, where they know where to shoot, and it worked better in this film to me. Like I love the Man Who Knew Too Much, but it seems really contrived. And as I'm going through my early Hitchcock films, it's almost like he's like, okay, it's almost like he's an early Tom Cruise producer where he's like, okay, I want this sequence in this film. Now write me a movie around it. Where he's like, okay, I want a guy to get shot at a concert at the high note. Now write me a movie around that. Yeah. And I want people crawling over the face of the Mount Rushmore. Now write me a movie around that. That's kind of what they do in Mission Impossible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nowadays, yeah.
Yeah, so
but
anywho, it made me think of the Man Who Knew Too Much.
I really did like the juxtaposition of that, like you said, like this classy, quiet place and all this like action and nefarious activity going on, and then the shadows around them. So, just great set pieces, and that's the thing. Like you have your, Tom Cruise held his breath, up to 6 minutes. Which apparently causes brain damage, but I don't know. Like if you look at Tom Cruise, he's doing something else right. Maybe it's the Scientology. I don't know, but
could be the Scientology.
But you have this practical stuff like he's holding his breath underwater, or he's holding onto a plane. But then you also have obviously there's just CGI machines going on all around him. But because they have a healthy balance of those things, like you're invested in the action, and that's the bottom line with all these movies, like. Because I'm so, as I'm sure you are by this point watching movies, I'm so desensitized to action scenes in movies, But when they're generic, like, oh, they're obviously on a green screen, or that's obviously a stunt double, right? But Tom Cruise, his commitment to excellence in these movies, like doing the majority of the stunts himself, like even the motorcycle chase, right?
Yeah.
We've seen motorcycle chases in this very franchise before. And this one is the best so far. It just feels so tangible and real. And I love when they're in the car, right?
Yes. You can see like they're doing that stunt, and you can see his lips, right? Like every time he drops, like his lips like go up, right? If you watch closely. So I don't know. It's pretty good.
Well, he's like he stumbles in the car, and Benji's like, "Can you drive? You almost died just then." He's just like,
what are you talking about?
and he's like, have you fastened your seatbelt? And he's like, you asked me this now? And then they do the triple backflip over all the stairs. So
yeah, there's a lot of really great humor in this movie. Yeah. Like when Ving Rhames' character and the other guy, they're like, "Yeah, had to get the 4-wheel drive," and they're like arguing there.
Yeah, you want me to drive? You want me to drive? So yeah, and just I guess to wrap it up, I think part of why I didn't love this one at the time was because I loved 4, and then the hype was so big around Rogue Nation when it came out. It's like, oh, it's got all this high Rotten Tomato score. It's the best one yet, right? It's so hyped, And then by the time I actually saw it, I was like, oh, that was fine, I guess. But people were telling me this is going to be like the greatest thing since like The Dark Knight or something, right? And it was fine. Yeah. But I think, I don't know, maybe my expectations, and I just wasn't in the right mindset when I saw it for the first time. But yeah, rewatching here, I really loved it, and it is my favorite one so far.
Ooh, interesting. Excellent. Right on. Well, should we do the masks now?
We should do the masks. So how many masks, Brendan?
Okay, I think that are we going to count the one with Benji?
I think we should, because as you said, it was on screen, therefore it's canon, right? It's the Star Trek rule, so...
It's canon. Okay. I can only remember 2 then. Did I
Correct.
miss any?
No, correct. It's